Hey, we're back. We're going to look at the end of World War One. As we summarize the political, economic, and social outcomes of this war. As you analyze this picture, because they like you guys to analyze pictures, so you might want to analyze this picture. You can see that the League of Nations is right there. The whole world is looking sort of on admirably at the League of Nations and the pretty little rainbow, but we all know didn't really happen like it was supposed to. So we need to remember why did the U.S. join the war, and this is because of unrestricted submarine warfare, U-boats, and the Zimmerman Note, which was about trying to bring Mexico in on the side of Germany to attack America and take back their lost territories. Russia left the war due to that nasty Russian Revolution and the fact that they had poor supply lines. They didn't have a lot of food. You had two revolutions. They lost too many people. It was just too much going on. It was like warfare on the Western Front was trench warfare. They were basically fighting over 30 yards at a time. This was not working, and this was just sitting there fighting each other back and forth to the point where everybody's starting to get sick of the fighting. Victory, Germans finally make a final push to Paris. They give it up on the Russian side, so they start coming back over there. But unfortunately, most of the population no longer really supported the war because everybody's tired of fighting because remember, this is happening in their backyard. U.S. troops come in and they push Germany back across France and Belgium. Second Battle of Marne is the first major battle in which U.S. troops were used. The World War I, World War II, Americans are going to be called doughboys quite a bit because they're not used to fighting, but they're fresh. They don't have the shell shock syndrome that a lot of the other guys didn't have in trench warfare, so they're able to fight pretty quickly and, make a difference. Germany retreats. They're too exhausted to continue, and there is no final battle. The Kaiser just steps down. They ask for a ceasefire or an armistice. Armistice. This little fancy word right here is another word for peace. So they asked for peace, and it was signed a railway car to end war in France. Austria-Hungary and Ottoman Empire had already surrendered. So on 11/11/11, 11th day of the 11th hour of the 11th month, on November 18th, we had the end of World War One. The Paris Peace Conference is where all these guys get together. They try to establish it. They try to fix everything and figure everything out. Woodrow Wilson's there. He's not quite consumed with getting anybody back or punishment. He's just more consumed with let's make sure it doesn't happen again. France, Georges Clemenceau wants to punish Germany and create a buffer zone because Germany and France were side by side. They didn't want to be there anymore. Italy wanted more land promised to them by Austria-Hungary, and British wanted to punish Germany they wanted to make them pay for the war. And those were the big four that were there. Wilson came up with these ideas to make the world safe for democracy and avoid future wars, freedom of sea, reduction of arms. You're going to stop the militarism, which was going on. Go with free trade, and that way everybody could work well together. End of secret treaties and alliances. You guys all know that treaties and alliances never really pay off. Fair colonial claims. So if you're going to claim an area, make sure it's fair and that you treat them proper. Self-determination means that you can figure out your own government and changing of creation of borders and equal fairness and not necessarily doing it try to have out of spite. Of course, Europe thought these ideas were ridiculous, so not a lot of these were used, and they went with the Treaty of Versailles. They did create a League of Nations. This is a group of nations in order to protect each other, and goal was keep the world peaceful. Somewhat happened. They returned part of the land to France, and they extended the French border all the way to the Rhine River. They gave up all of Germany's colonies to the Allies, and they were to disarm and only maintain an army of defense. The size of the army was for 100,000 troops. They could not buy or build military war materials. In other words, they couldn't build any more airplanes. They couldn't build any more tanks. They had to cut back all their military production. They had to pay $33 million in war reparations to the Allies, and Germany was broke. They had nothing, and they had to pay $33 million. And Germany had to take the whole fact of the war onto themselves, even though they were not the ones that started it. Remember, it was the shot heard around the world. Serbia and Austria-Hungary are the ones that started fighting, but Germany did jump on the side of Austria-Hungary rather quickly. During the League of Nations, you had all these nations that all had different opinions, they all had different goals and factors. Instead of trying to make peace, they all were trying to fight with one another for that piece of the pie. Weaknesses of the treaty is Germany basically was ticked after that They were totally to blame for World War One, and they had no colonies. They couldn't pay back the war debt. Germany is basically wiped out. The people that are living there have lost everything. Russia excluded. Russia lost more territory than Germany, and Russia lost more people than anybody else in World War One. This is essential because of the fact that Russia was treated a little bit unfairly at this point, in their opinion, and they pulled out because they had so much intergovernmental weakness at that point. Colonies did not get their independence. They thought that if they were to fight for their main country and fight, then they would show that they are, if you can die for the country, you might be able to get your independence from their country. Japan and Italy entered the war to gain territory, but they didn't really get too much all for it, and they were a little bit irritated because they thought they'd get something for going into World War One and helping out, but they really didn't get anything. United States at this point also did not join the League of Nations. They went back to the policy of isolationism. They didn't want to get involved in Europe because we sent people over there to help. We wanted to be able to throw our 2 cents in because we felt like we changed the tides of the war, but Europe at that point they were just over getting people back. You see how this doesn't work out well. If you remember treaties, they're not good, and people are never happy with it. So we got some issues. 8.5 million people were dead. 8.5. I think there was 12 million civilians that died, and then because of the great influenza epidemic, this has 20 to 30, but I think some of that numbers now today will actually represent up to 50. Cost of the war back in the 19 teens was $350 billion. That's a little bit of money. There was a whole generation of people that died because this is what we call the lost generation. Nobody really knew what was going on. They became disillusioned with war and society, reflected on in literature. These people, their brothers or sisters or friends, everybody they knew was dead. Nobody knew really what was going on, and so it was sort of a lost time period for Europe. Ottoman Empire is going to be broken up into two nations, and our Austria-Hungary Empire is going to be broken up to Austria and Hungary. Ottoman Empire is broken up into Czechoslovakia and Yugoslavia. Russia is going to lose Finland, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. These colonies of these countries are reassigned to other nations, which must be nice. Poland created out of land of both Russia and Germany, and there was a total of 9 nations formed. Obviously, the nations that lost land and lost people are not happy. Austria and Hungary had worked well together for who knows how long right now off the top of my head, but they worked out well. They were split up, and Ottoman Empire, which has been around for hundreds of years, is split up at this point as well. That is your new map. This is one of those things that just changes all the time. Is you have a new map right here, and things are definitely starting to change. If you want to take a look at this, which you probably should, it's something to look at in the PowerPoint above this video. And that'll be all for today. This is going to be the end of this. After this, we're going to get into the Roaring Twenties, and we're going to look at it from our perspective of the Roaring Twenties. Be followed by the Great Depression, and then you're going to see World War II, which is where some people believe that World War I and World War II were actually one big battle, and not necessarily two.